All right, welcome back to another tutorial. In the previous tutorial, we went through the admin site. We spiced it up a little bit, gave it a little better look, a little better functionality. But now we're going to move into something that might be a little boring to you guys, and that's querying the database. But, most of the time when you find something boring, that's probably the important thing that you should be focusing on. And that's I kind of think that's part of life. So when you query a database, working with the Python shell, which is like the Python interpreter, uh, it's good to practice and understand how to query the database because I believe querying the database is one of the harder things to grasp in Django. And once you grasp it, Django is a breeze. All right. So once you can grasp querying the database, I think you're going to whiz right through Django and you're not going to have many more problems beyond that point. So what I want to do here is give you a brief overview of querying the database because I could spend hours on this. And I'm sure you guys don't want to sit here and listen to me for hours. So what I'm going to do is walk you through creating some posts, editing some posts, and deleting some posts. But I want you, after this video, to go over to the djangoproject.com, go and look at the documentation for querying and querying sets, and read through it, work with it, work with our project, and understand querying because it's going to make your life so much easier. All right, so let's get started on how do we even get to querying the database and why would we query the database? Well, first off, let's talk about why. Why would you want to query the database? Well, we're going to need to show the content that we saved in the database to our users on the front end. So we need to query it somehow. And that's what we're going to do in the views.py file. We're going to query the database, and that's how we're going to say, hey, we get a request from the user, now we got to provide the response. And what we're doing is we're taking a request and we're getting a response, and that's querying the database, right? So understanding this is going to take you, a long way. So how are we going to do this to better understand it is we're going to use the Django shell, which is the Python, basically like a Python interpreter. And what we're going to do is query the database and do some modifications and whatnot there. So once you understand this, you're going to have no problem. So let's go ahead and get started. Python 3, manage.py, shell. That's how you fire up the Django interpreter, but it's actually called a shell. Anywho, once that fires up, we need to think about what we need from the database. Well, when we create a post, if you look back at our models.py, we have author in here, right here, and it's a foreign key. So when we have a foreign key in our post model, we're going to need to query another database. All right. So if you have a foreign key in your model, you're going to have to query another database. So let's go ahead and give ourselves access to that database. And how do we do that? Well, we have to import that database. So let's go back in here, and we're going to go from Django contrib auth for authentication models import user. Okay. So now we have access to the authentication models to get a user. All right. And you'll see why we did that in a second. Now, the next thing we're doing is we're working with our post model. So we have to be able to access that database. So we'll do from blog models import post. All right. Now we have access to that database. Pretty simple so far, right? That's kind of like what we see when we are up here. We got from and import and all that stuff. All right. We're also going to have that in our views.py file up here. All right. With that being said, let's go back into our shell here. And let's go ahead and create a variable to hold our user. Now, our user is going to be our super user because that's the only user we have right now, unless you created other users. I named my super user admin. Now, you might have named yours something different. That's cool. But when we put the user in here, just make sure you use your super user. All right, so we're going to create a variable, user, and we're going to set it equal to something. So now we have to go get that user that we want to use to create our post. So we're basically saying, hey, this user created our post, but we need to be able to grab that from the database so Django knows where we're getting this information. So we'll do user, capital U, user objects dot get, and username is equal to admin. All right, because that's my super user's name, username. Sorry. All right, so I hit return. Now we got a variable representing that user. The next thing I want to do is create a post. All right, so now that I got user, I can create a post. I got an author, I should say. So what I'm going to do is create a variable that's going to hold that post object, and we're going to do post.objects.create, and then in here is where we create our post. Now we got to think about what kind of information does our post need. Well, we need a title, so we'll do title, and we'll say practice title. All right, just so we can decipher from our other titles when we take a look at all of them. All right, so we got title, we got another one we need is slug, so we'll do practice title. All right, and another one's going to be content, which is the body of our blog. So we go content is equal to, and we'll just say this is the content. All right, and the last one we are required to have is the author. So we'll do author is equal to user. All right, and close out our parentheses, and now we have a blog post. All right, cool. Well, this is represented by a variable, but it's not actually saved to our database yet. So we have to go ahead and commit it to our database. How do we do that? Well, we call our variable post, and that's the one that contains the information. Then we're going to call save on that, and this will be what actually commits, excuse me, commits the post to the database. Hit return, and now that we have committed our post to the database. So let's take a look at what kind of posts we have in the database. So how would we do something like that? Well, we can do post.objects.all, and this will return all our posts, and it returns the title of all our posts. So I got this is a blog post, this is a new post, this is our latest post, this is our new post, and practice title. So that's the one I put in. So I got a bunch of titles in there. Cool. So that's how we access them all. How about let's go ahead and change the title of our practice title. Well, that's still represented as post. So let's go ahead and do that first. So we can just do post.title is equal to, this is, we'll just call it Tom. All right, so our new title is going to be Tom. So then if I do that, now it's saved in as a variable, but it's not committed yet. So I have to do post.save again, return, and then we do post.objects.all, and hit return, and we got post Tom. All right, so we got a new title as Tom. What else do I want to show you guys in this today? We can also grab titles and query the database and say that we want to order the titles. Let me clear that so you can see it back at the top. We're going to query the titles and put them in alphabetical order. So we could do something like this. We can do post.objects.all, not all, order by, and we'll do title. All right, this is going to put it in alphabetical format. And if you can figure it out here, it's in alphabetical format, but that's not, really easy to see. So let's just reverse it so you can see there is some kind of change here. Objects order by, and we'll do negative title, so it will go backwards, alphabetical format backwards. And you see Tom's first where Tom was last there. So we just flip-flopped them. But if you look closely, it was in alphabetical order. But since I start every post with this is our new, or this is, it's kind of hard to follow along there. So that's, one way to do it. We can get we can also get a post by its, let's see here, by its primary key, which we don't see. We could, but we don't, set the primary keys, which is the ID for the post. So the primary key is set by Django defaultly, so it will set a primary key in order if the post is created. So let's go ahead and just get the second primary key in here and see what post that actually is, because I don't know. So let's just do post is equal to post dot objects dot get pk is equal to 2, and that's going to reach. Hold on, phone's going off, and that post matching query does not exist. What? Because it's not pk, it's id. So post equal to post dot objects dot get id is equal to 2. No, post matching query does not exist. All right, let's try a different one. I was bound to screw up eventually. So post equal to post dot objects dot get id equal to 1. So what that does. Post. This is a blog post. All right, so I must have deleted ID equal to 2 at some point. So let's find out what the content is of this right here. Since this is a post, I really don't know what's included in that post. So we can do post dot content return. This is our content. Oh, that's a really good blog post. Post dot slug. This is a slug. Ooh, that looks pretty cool. And how about post dot author admin? All right, so that's how we query the database, because I saved it in the variable, and then I'm able to go through and query each section of it. I could also get the publish time. I could do post dot published like that, and there's our publish time if you want to figure that out. So that is one way to do it. And if you guys understand what I was having an issue with was ID. Once you create an ID, that ID in the database is always going to be there. So if you delete it, that was already taken by a deleted post. So it already went on to the next one. So it wasn't available to me. So that's why I was getting errors. So let's go ahead and let's delete a post. Let's delete this post, all right? Because this post is making me angry for some reason. To delete a post, we can just go ahead and let's start over. Let's do, just so you guys can see, post is equal to post dot objects dot get id is equal to 1. All right, I'm gonna post. So we see this is our blog. All right, and let's go ahead and just do post dot delete. All right, boom, it's deleted. Now if I do post dot objects dot all, hit return, I will not see this is a blog post in here. As you can see, it's removed. We had 5 posts before, now we have 4. So that is querying the database in Django, and there's so much more that we can do with it, and I'll show you some of this as we move through with the views.py. But for now, I highly suggest you guys go over to the Django project and read through query sets and stuff like that. It will help you in the long run. Otherwise, stay tuned for the next tutorial. We'll actually start writing our views and getting us some front-end action here. So I'll see you then. Have a nice day. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.